Hello, hello, welcome everyone. Hi, I'm Richert Belul, author of Say It Now, 33 Creative Ways to Say I Love You to the most important people in your life. And I am so excited for today's panel because we are talking about vitality. And we have two amazing, vivacious authors with us. We have Polly Campbell. Hey, Polly.
Hey.
And Irene O'Garden. Yay. Hi, Irene.
Hi.
And so happy that you guys are here and that we're going to explore how to recharge. In Polly, in your book, I know that there was a part where you asked about like you were saying that feeling of, is this all there is? And I was thinking about that. And I think that that's kind of a perfect way to start our group today, which is that sense that I think during the pandemic, a lot of people have had that feeling like, is this it? You know, what happened to everything? And you two are going to be so great at sharing some ways for people to feel recharged. So, Polly, let's start with you. Can you hold up your book and tell us?
Are you kidding me? Yes, I can hold it any which way you guys want. Yes, look at that.
And can you tell us why? Why did you write that book?
Well, I mean, it came out of what you just said. I had these years of flurry. You know, I'd written a few books and I raised a baby to a non-baby, and I'd been married for a number of years, and I was just feeling exhausted at the end of every day. So I went from this real robust, vital life to getting up in the morning and sitting on the edge of the couch with my coffee and counting the hours till I could go back to bed. Wow. And I thought, is this it? Is this all there is? Now I'm in my late 40s. I've done the thing. I had a great career. My kid, she doesn't need me to feed her anymore. My marriage was stable. And I sat there thinking about this question. And then I got really embarrassed about it because I had a great life. I had a career that I loved, one that I wanted to do my entire life. I get to write. And I had a kid. I had to a good guy and had shelter. I began to feel really ashamed. What is the deal? So I started to look into that question. Is this all there is? Do you tap out at a certain age? And what I discovered is, first of all, no way. You never tap out. And second of all, everybody else is asking this question too, right? This hits us all. It hits us when we're young and we get out of college and we've had this great experience. And now we got to be in the real world. And we're like, oh my God, do I have to deal with this grind every day? It happens when we're late in marriage and we become really familiar with each other. It happens when we retire and we have this transition and we're like, what a minute, is this what I do now? So we all need to ask that question, but there are really practical ways through that. And so the book came out of that. I decided to investigate and started doing these practices myself and doing this research myself. And what I learned, I put into a book because it's the stuff I use too.
And I can tell this is what I love about you already, right? We don't even have to read your book yet to understand, like we can just feel your energy. It's great.
Oh, good. Yeah, I get pumped up about it.
I love it. And we are good. I know we're going to come back. You're going to share some readings from it and some practices. But in the meantime, let's go to you, Irene, and tell us about why you wrote your book.
My book is Glad to Be Human. And I wrote it because I am. But actually that feeling surfaced in me quite strongly in the essay that is in the book by that same name, Glad to Be Human. I was thinking one day how bombarded we have been with images and ideas of human beings doing terrible things and not treating one another or the planet well. That tends to be what the mainstream consciousness is foisting upon us. And yet what is so beautiful is that the other stuff that doesn't make the news is the much broader truth, and that is the beauty of the human spirit. And what I did was I just sat down and went, well, all right, why am I glad to be human? And these words came pouring out of me. And I thought, well, there's more to that. And when we spoke with beloved Mango, hi, Brenda, nice to see you. When we spoke with beloved Mango, they said, well, what else do you have that might be within this same vein? And I realized that much of my writing is actually that same spirit, that kind of how can we think positively about, even though tough things happen, how do we take that moment, acknowledge it? We don't pass over these emotions, but then we say, well, all right, then what can we offer one another? How can we look at this positively? It's funny, I was at a book club the other day, and a woman was not understanding really what it was to live in the positive aspect. Text from her a day later, and she said, I know what you're talking about. I was out walking my dog, and my dog would not do the things that I wanted him to do, and I wanted to get him back in the house. And she said, and then I went, okay, what's positive about this situation? And she said, I realized I was outdoors. It was a gorgeous day. It was where I wanted to be. And all of a sudden I went, oh, glad to be human. So it's just changing the way that we ordinarily, or that we have been trained to approach life, finding new ways.
I love it. I love it. And the thing is, I was so excited to have both of you here today because you both really walk the talk, right? Like, and again, we could feel, or at least I can, I hope everyone else can, the energy, right? The energy of who you are and how you live. And so it's not just that you wrote these books, but you live it. And so, Polly, let's come back to you. And I'd love to know, I know you could talk about this for weeks, right? About practices, actual things that people can do, but do you just have a favorite one or two practices that have really sustained you the most over the last?
It's a good time you narrowed me down to one or two, because I could go. I love talking about this stuff. And I totally agree with what Irene. So one of my real important things in my own life is these have to be practical. I'm raising a kid, I'm working full time. These have to be practices that we can fit in right in the middle of our day. And if I can do them, anybody can do them, because I'm crazy, I'm silly and running all over. So the one practice Irene just touched on is life is in the noticing. So deliberately, choose what you notice, right? Because she's right. We are bombarded. You can shape whatever story you want for your life. I can complain that the garbage person left the garbage can open. I can complain that the dog isn't doing what I want. Or I can say, oh, look at this beautiful sunny day. Imagine my heart is still beating. I don't even have to think about how lucky am I. So choose what you notice. And I had to be very deliberate about that, because when you're down, you have to be deliberate in changing your thought pattern. So it's okay to go from, well, I feel so tired all the time. Oh, but look at me, I'm sitting up. You can take baby steps, choose what you notice. And the other thing I really started initially when I was coming back to this energy was a morning ritual. This can be whatever you want, but again, be deliberate in how you start the day. Set the rhythm, set the intention, create the energy, because listen, when you wake up in the morning, you're bringing energy. No matter what you think, make sure it's the energy you want to bring, because energy does two things. It transforms and it transfers. So if you're going to wake up and go make your kids cereal, or you're going to wake up and talk to a coworker at work, or sit there and have your cup of coffee, what is the energy you're bringing? And a morning ritual that soothes my mind, my body, and my spirit really helped me. It's longer now, but you can do this in 10 minutes. What's important is that you do one component of each, you do it the same way, the same time every day, and use that as sacred time. So meditate for 5 minutes, drink a glass of water for your body, or go for an exercise routine or stretching or whatever it is. And I call it a study. When I was growing up, the women in my life would do a Bible study. I don't study the Bible, but I do a study. I'll read a book like Irene or Rachel. I will read something that's inspiring me, so that the very next thing that I do after my 20 minutes, my body feels better, my spirit is engaged, and my mind is inspired. And that has made a huge difference to the kind of energy I bring into the world during the day.
Oh, Polly. And I'm such a huge fan of small spaces of time. So I love what you said. I love when you said meditate for 5 minutes, right? Because all too often people think, oh, I don't have time for a morning routine, right? I've got to meditate for 45 minutes and then I've got to do yoga for half an hour, but what you said is it can be a small amount of time and it does make a difference.
I write about that as another practice in my book, Go for Good Enough, because for many years I didn't exercise because all the experts were saying, you got to do an hour and you got to do it this way. And there's no way. I live with chronic disease. I don't enjoy exercise. There's no way. So I changed my exercise program to 20 minutes of movement, whatever I want it to be. So make your own rules. The thing is to develop kind of core that sustains itself. You have to repeat it, right? You have to support yourself, your mind, body, spirit in little ways each day. And it's not hard because you're going to want to. You will feel so much better from day one. And you're right. I mean, I did this stuff. I was I was feeling really dull and I was really stuck. And the book came out of my way back, and I don't have that challenge in the same way as I had before, because it's the little tiny baby steps every day tailored to my particular life. Do it how you need to do it with your schedule that you can sustain, and it will show up for you.
Ah, that's awesome. Yay. Irene, I'm going to ask you the same question. What are the two? I know, again, you could speak about this, for so long because you're such an expert on this, but how about one or two that have really sustained you?
Something that continues to be so important, right? Yes, exercise, absolutely great. And choosing nutritious foods, it really sustains me and so forth. But in this last year, I would say there were two things. I encourage everyone to find some practice of deep relaxation. For me, there's a practice called Yoga Nidra, which is just about the most relaxing thing you can do. You don't have to do anything. You just relax and listen to a guided meditation that brings you back to that beautiful central spiritual core that we have. So that I remember in the early days of the pandemic, waking up with that, my stomach was just like, and I realized that is dread. That is actual dread. So what do we do for that? We breathe into it. We maybe stretch it a little bit. But we need to relax with it. We identify it, then we relax with it, then we see where we go. So that has been absolutely important to me. And the other thing that happened this year is I'm a very, go, 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 accomplish, do, make sure this is there and all that. And the nice thing about this year has been that the formal deadlines have all evaporated, and the transportation insistence has evaporated. So what did that leave me with? That left me with some time that I could give to the community. So I was able to create what our local art center was having a chair remake event. So they gave chairs to a lot of artists, and they were to transform them, and then they auctioned them off. Well, I spent a good deal of really focused time on it, and that it made me feel good. It ended up earning a really nice sum of money for the art center. And I did it again. I was asked to make a peace pole. You remember those peace poles, May Peace Prevail on Earth? You may have heard of these. They're all over the world. So they got some blank ones and they wanted artists to paint those. This is not something I ordinarily might have done, so I would just say, there may be an organization who needs you creatively now, and you may be able to do that in a way that you've never been able to do it before. So that's what I added to my roster this year.
I love that. I really love hearing that about you, because I think it speaks to also versatility and new things. And, I felt that when you were talking about it, that it was something brand new to do these things. And also, of course, the giving back part. Yeah.
Really, really satisfying. Really satisfying.
Oh, love it. So why don't we, I know you both brought something to read. Polly, do you want to share with us?
Sure.
I'm excited to hear. This is one of my favorite parts because I love what people choose.
So it's hard to choose because I have all this story and I get excited and think everybody needs to know everything, which of course,
Well, Polly,
don't buy the book. Don't buy this book.
I was going to say, I know Victoria's always kind enough to put oh, look, she already did. You're so great.
It's already out there.
You're so great,
Well,
Victoria.
This kind of leads on what you asked before. This is when I was spending those dark winter mornings on the couch thinking about this stuff. And I knew before I started to think about energy in the world, I needed to figure out where my own energy was coming from and what I was going to do next. And here's what I learned. Cultivating core energy. It all starts from within, the core, your very essence, that deep, intangible place where your soul meets our solar plexus and creates this radiant life force. Vitality sits there. It also grows from there. When you fill up on the things that inspire, excite, expand your entire being, your mind, body, spirit, you will recharge in the doing. It's like driving a car around to recharge a drained battery. You will fill up with energy by doing the things that fill you up, that add meaning and intrigue, instead of the things that drain you and offer little more than stress, boredom, burnout, and fatigue. Sustainable energy grows in incremental steps. Right now, look at the areas of your life where you'd like to feel a little more enthusiasm and interest. Consider the places where it feels as though the energy is draining away. Are you eating too much junk food, watching too much TV, losing too much energy to work, or mindlessly scrolling through social media? Hello, I was. What would you like your days to feel like? What is one thing that might raise your energy level? Consider how you would feel if you did that one thing. Fun, relaxed, interested? Don't judge where you sit right now. Just get curious. Look at what you're lacking and then look at the possibilities. Find the things that are already present in your life, maybe something you've overlooked. Choose one tiny thing to wonder about, something that sparks your interest. Feel it in your body, daydream about it. Play with the idea of it. Trust that it's okay to feel connected and inspired and enchanted in your life again, even now. Know that. Open to the idea of it. It's there for you if you choose. Just start today where you are.
Oh, that is so great. I love it again. Like, this is so great because this is something that you do so well, which is you break it down into such tiny pieces for people, right? And I think that that's what makes it doable. Like when you said, I wrote it down because I love so much, just one thing that will raise your energy, that just one small thing.
Thank you. I really think of it that way. I used to be very focused on where I was going to be 5 years out and 10 years out and 15 years out. And that was exhausting for me. So what I still have that picture in mind, things I'd like to try, but my intention is really to make the next moment a little bit better, because I think when you do that, you raise up all the other moments, and 10 years from now, your life is looking pretty good anyhow. So I just really try to, I have to slow myself down. I mean, you know, I get caught up in all of it. And I have to say, hey, let's just look at the next 5 minutes. What can I do right now to just elevate my energy? And it's not always from, it's not always to bliss. It's not always from bad to, hey, life is great. Sometimes it's just from bad to a little better. And that's okay. But it makes the next moment then a little better. And that's something I can build on.
I love that. I had an experience of that this morning. I just woke up. I don't know why, but I woke up like sour. I just woke into that. I don't know if it was my dreams or whatever, but I was really paying attention to, okay, I have Ronnie Walter's gratitude journal, which I love because it's so whimsical. And so it's like, okay, just do that. Start with that. And she made it really simple to do. And then it's like, I sent a voice note to a friend. right? There's just one little thing after another. I did some exercise. And I think it's true, right? We just make the next moment a little better and a little better. And then before you know it, like before I knew it, I was here with all of you guys and like so excited to be here. So I love that.
I definitely think you have to find, that's in the noticing again, right? You have to find the moment and say, okay. And like Irene said, it's okay to feel a little down, but it's in the noticing. What is creating this feeling? And can I label that? Do I know what I'm feeling? Sometimes I'm hurt and I'm acting angry. That's not helpful. Go back and understand where you're at, and then allow yourself to do something that just nurtures you for a minute, to feel just a little bit better and calms you. So then you're responding instead of reacting to those difficulties, because for sure we all have them,
We all do. I love Brenda's message. Thank you, Brenda. I'm actually sour, but I just practice ways to unsour. Irene, I'm curious, before we have you read, did you want to respond at all to any of this particular piece of the conversation?
I just wanted to say, I really love how eloquently you talk about this, Polly. I love your words. I love intrigue, to be living with things that intrigue us and things that enchant us. I think that's a really wonderful departure from a very, therapeutic kind of approach. I like that magical and sort of whimsical and intuitive way of responding.
Well, thank you. I think we really do forget what a deal we have here. And that doesn't mean it's easy, but we're marvelous. I mean, think about what our bodies do, and think about the planets and how we just do not have time. We just do not have time to be complainers. We just do not. And so every time I'm going down that road, I think I've talked about it before, I try to shift and be the creator, because I just feel like we have a gift, and it's okay to be in a funk, but we do not have time to stay there. I don't want to spend my time that way. So I'm trying to find ways through that.
I love that. And Polly, that just reminded me. So this morning, one of the things that I did, which is kind of a go-to for me too, when I'm feeling kind of, is my studio's outside of the house. So I always have to walk outside, which is great, right? Because when you're outside, so I stepped out and I did kind of what you were saying. Like, I was like, I can walk. Like what an amazing, I'm not even hardly thinking about it. My legs are just going to the studio. And then I looked at the sky and there was this pink streak, and so I think you're right. Like I wasn't trying to push myself out of that bad mood, but more just trying to notice, like you said, I think that was so beautiful, like the miracle of it all.
Notice it all.
Notice it all.
Yeah.
Notice it all. I love that.
Amen.
Irene, what have you got for us?
Oh, I have, sometimes I think this really does fit in. I had already chosen this selection, but when we're talking about little steps, I'd already chosen to read this short essay called Ridiculously Tiny Trees. So, and there's a little picture. I don't know if you can see my hand against this very tiny tree.
Well,
when I was younger, I regularly drove by a wooden fence where someone had planted 15 little spruces, each just the size of your hand. Ridiculously tiny trees, I'd think to myself. Those were the same ignorant years when I'd page through a garden catalog and say, I'm not planting an apple tree. You have to wait too long for it to bear fruit. It took me ages to realize that whether you plant it or not, 5 years will pass just the same. Either you'll have apples or you won't. But who doesn't love massive, graceful old trees? When we moved into our present house, we were awed by a stately alley of century-old catalpas. There were also towering cedars, mighty chestnuts, and grandmother dogwoods shawled in lichen, testament to the long view of the first tenants. Yet no mid-sized trees. A whole generation of trees was missing. Fascinated by dogs and horses, the intermediate owners ignored tree planting. We brought along some Arbor Day babies, which are mailed as pinky fingers. The crab and hawthorn now blossom and fruit and shelter the birds. We've planted many other trees as well, including a reserve of catalpa offspring to replenish the LA when the time comes. Now, in the company of old trees, I'm always on the lookout for the young. It's a comfort to see them springing up in Central Park or along the Taconic or the Palisades Parkway. And those 15 spruces, they are taller than I am. Whenever I pass these teachers, I gush with affection. We sometimes embark on adventures feeling ourselves as tiny trees indeed. But lately it occurs to me that if some things are too big to fail, nothing is too small to plant.
Beautiful.
That's perfect.
I'm writing that down.
I do love, because you told me you were going to read that, so I can
So
attest to
beautiful.
that. But it's magical, right? That it just fits perfectly into.
Yeah. I think already.
I love how that happens.
Those small steps.
I think, can I jump in?
Please.
When you opened, Irene, with there was a line there about the 5 years, and the 5 years are still going to pass. That is such a good lesson to me and to all of us, because you're right. Are we going to bring beauty and effort and energy or not? We're still going to pass the 5.
We'll still be here. Yeah. With
really
luck.
great.
With luck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it isn't really luck, I don't believe, but that's a good enough thing to say.
Yeah, and it was also beautiful how you brought it back to those little trees that were the size of your hand, and then seeing them. And often it feels like this, right? The passing of those years.
Yep, and I have special affection. I still pass them quite regularly, and I'm like,
I'm wondering if anybody who's here, did you want to jump into the conversation and ask a question or join in? Ms. Rachel, hello.
Hi, I just want to say I love this panel. This is one of the ones that's going to make my mouth hurt at the end, because I'm going to be because I'm like literally smiling from ear to ear the whole time. But yeah, and it's the synchronicities are just amazing to me, because, you know, Polly, you were talking about picking the X. I just wrote about that today. Like today, it was in a post I put out about, you know, we don't have to buy into other people's messages about what they say about our exercise. We have to find what's right for us.
Yeah.
And because, you know, I used to hear the no pain, no gain. And it made me
for
not
sure.
want to exercise because I don't like pain. Stopped exercising until I found ones that I actually loved, you know, and so it just tied into just my joy from, you know, writing that and talking about that, and to have you do it. And I'm like, yes. And then the tree. The trees, I am so attached to trees. Trees are what really actually was one of my inspirations to start writing.
Oh, wow.
Was, you know, we had gotten this, have you guys heard of the ficus tree, like the banyan, where it crawls and spreads? Mm-hmm. Well, I live in an area that has some of the biggest ones in the United States. And we got one of the little seedlings of it, and so we planted it super small. And then I had asked someone why it wasn't spreading, and it says it's putting its energy up into the top, into the leaves. And so I went up and climbed up into the tree and started pruning the tree from the top, and so that the energy can flow out. And it just opened my eyes to the awareness of what that means. It's like, don't put energy into the places you don't need it, you know?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Rachel.
So I just love, this is why I love Wednesdays. They just bring me so much joy.
I think you love Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But I'm glad you love Wednesdays too.
Wednesdays is my social.
And I do love that, because I don't even think you were here before we started. We were talking, and I'm glad, because you just reminded me, right? Irene and Polly and I were saying we wanted to talk about exercise in the sense of how to make it fun, like, so that it's not like we were saying, of course, we all know it makes us feel better when we do it. But I'm going to open this up now to Polly and Irene to join in again, because what is that place of how do we make it so, yes, we know we feel better, but how can we enjoy it more while we're doing it?
Mhm.
Who wants to jump in?
You want me to jump in?
Yeah, Irene, jump in.
Yeah, jump, Irene.
I'll jump in because I used to hate it years and years ago. And one day it occurred to me that they let prisoners exercise. So what does that mean? That means it's a basic human need. They cannot deny this to prisoners. Well, all right, then I thought, well, if it's a basic human need, all the other ones feel really good when you know, eating and making love and going to sleep and all of these things. So I thought there's got to be some innate pleasure in exercise. So then I was determined I was going to find it for myself. So I thought, well, what do I like? I like rhythm. I'm a poet, essentially. So I like rhythm. So the first thing that I found that gave me pleasure to simply do it was to swim. I wasn't distracted by anything else. I could just feel the motion. The water is a very forgiving kind of substance to be in. And that I found that I actually enjoyed it. So that became my lodestar for exercise. So then I thought, well, I was very self-conscious about my body for many, many years. But I thought, well, if I turn off the lights and dance to music I really like, no one will see me and it will feel really good. And it did. So I have gone from that into all kinds of exercise. Usually music is involved because I really do that rhythmic connection is really wonderful. But I find, I love riding the bike to music. I love my stationary bike and doing a little bike class. I love, doing a very slow yoga class to music. So I think what you were saying earlier, Polly, about finding that thing that makes you happy while you're doing it makes such a difference.
Yeah, I like the way you talk about the rhythm part of it. I have found my workouts to be movement. I do all kinds of different movement now. And one thing that I do, I use that as my growth. My learning part, because that excites me. So I'll pick up podcasts, and depending on my mood, it'll be true crime. It'll be about writing craft, because I want to become a better writer always. It'll be storytelling. It'll be psychology, because I'm fascinated about how our brains and bodies work. And so anything I can learn. So I'll plug in a podcast, and usually about 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes longer, and I'll go and I carve out that time and I tell everybody, this is my podcast listening time. I don't even call it my exercise. And I get on the exercise bike, or I vacuum the house, or I do a circuit with the milk jugs and everything else we're doing in the pandemic. Because I think, we all have things we choose to do because they enhance our life. And we may think we don't enjoy them, and that's fine. You're not going to love everything you do. But I'm really focused on adding in the things that are going to elevate my energy, rather than saying, well, I can't do it this way, rather than limiting, right? So I focused on eating more fruits and vegetables rather than limiting the pizza. I eat all the pizza I want, but I eat the fruits and vegetables first, and I eat more of them as my way back to this place of vitality. So anything that limits you, it changes how our brain responds. If we think it, or like Rachel was saying, hurt, that limits you, right? You don't want to go do something. We're trained not to want to hurt ourselves, right? So yes, I add in little ways to boost that energy that I enjoy. to get those things done.
I love that. And the other thing I was telling you guys before we all came on, which is that my son is doing some kettlebell training with me. But what I didn't say about that is that sure, I'd love to learn kettlebell, but actually I want to spend time with my 20-year-old son. And there aren't all those kinds of places where we overlap. And when I saw him so passionate about it, I had the idea like, oh, I'll ask him to be my trainer. And so I think there's also that element when we're looking at exercise, and just like, Irene was talking too about the rhythm part, or how do we bring in some other element of our life that is serving us? And that's, I like to do that too. I'm curious if anybody else who's here, if you want to share, if you have something that you've, especially, oh, Brenda, jump on in.
I raised my hand too. And yeah.
I see it. Yes.
So I thought I'd do it in IRL, in real life too. So I'm not wanting to like bring the conversation down or politicize it, but when Irene talked about exercise as a basic human need, and that even prisoners are allowed like to exercise once a day or an hour a day or something. And I had been reading about the children kept on the border, during the last horrible, administration, and how they were treating migrants, trying to come to America for safety. And that even now, because they haven't been able to, just wave a magic wand and change everything, it takes time to make those changes from with the Trump administration. All of those children from very young, infants to teens, they are only allowed to go outside for 20 minutes every 2 weeks.
Wow.
I realized that wow. We know it was bad, the kids in cages and just all how horrifying that is. But I never really pieced together until Irene said that they're not having that basic human need met on a daily basis. So that I just, and then it sort of, that caused my mind to sort of go back to something I touched on with Polly in a Zoom meeting yesterday, which is that I think there's sort of a burnout level, a collective burnout crisis in America and maybe even the globe, just because of the trauma of the last, I'm going to say 5 years. To me, it started in 2016, just when everything just felt bad. I mean, I know that people are getting vaccinated, sense the pandemic will end one day, but we're still not out of the woods. But I just think there's a grief crisis, trauma from just the tsunami of lies and craziness and evil doing of the last administration in the last 5 years. And then economic crisis and loss, so I wonder, I'll ask you both, but I'll start with Polly, what can we do about that? What are little steps that if you just keep doing them, we can climb out of the abyss we've been in?
I think that's something we're all thinking about. I think is really tricky, but it starts with you first, because like I mentioned before, we're taking our energy into the world, whether it's a Zoom call or running an errand and interacting with a checker at the store or whatever it is. So be conscious of the energy you're bringing, because it can change the rest of the world. Listen, if I show up and I have a bad interaction with my daughter and she goes walking around with her friends and has a bad interaction with them, we know through emotional contagion that spreads 20-fold. So bring a higher energy and trust that it matters. I don't have very much worry anymore. I have upset, I feel sad, I cry, I feel angry, but I don't have much worry because there's not enough worry in the world for me to make a difference. But if I feel angry and I step back and I like when you said that, Brenda, about the children, I mean, I just felt like I wanted to lash out. So understand, label your emotions. We know that psychologically, when we can label the specific emotion we're feeling, then we can diffuse the intensity of it so we can work with it. It's not, acceptance isn't saying, oh, that's okay, there's nothing I can do about it. Acceptance is acknowledging the reality, understanding what you're feeling about the reality, and taking the very next best step in that moment, not talking about it, not thinking about it, the very next right action right then. So the first thing I'll do is write my Congress people to alert them. I will also, anytime I get new information, I communicate with everybody I can think, with the assumption that they're going to take my good energy and change the world with it. We also, during the pandemic, went to the frailest citizens in our community, and we began writing letters from my desk to all the people in the seniors home. My daughter and I did that because I felt like if I could extend the energy to empower those people, then they were going to be better advocates for themselves. I don't think there's an easy answer. I'll be curious what Irene has to say. But it starts with me to bring my best energy and then act on it in that moment with the very next right action. And by acting on it, that presumes you're going to reach beyond yourself. So write your Congress people, talk to people that can make a change, share with them your feelings. And, we have to also speak up for the things we care about in the family. If there's a tradition in your family that's not working, and you feel it while you're living with everybody right now, it's okay to step up. And I told my daughter, kindly and firmly explain what you need to have and how it needs to go. You can always be kind, but you can always be very clear about what has to happen next to respect all people. And when we do that, we start to empower ourselves more, and that extends our reach.
Wow. Yeah.
I think about this stuff too, and it weighs on you, right? It can weigh on you.
What can I add? What can I add? That was just so beautifully put. The way I might phrase it is, you go to your intuition, you stay connected to yourself, because that is where the impulse for the next right action comes. And you feel the power of your emotions, because that's what propels us. That's what propels our beliefs. That's what propels our action. And it may rise in very small and tiny things, a volunteer at this is one thing I'm reaching out to do, is to volunteer. We have a hotline for getting vaccines, getting all the people in our community lined up for vaccines. So they have like 4-hour shifts where you can go and help your community members get their vaccines. Some people are really massively drawn to political action, and Lord knows we need it. That's not my best use of my energy, because I get incapacitated by it as I get so I go, all right, where am I drawn? What can I do? And it will often be this community thing, or it may be just a different way of thinking about a situation that then I can share with somebody else. But that is grave, very grave indeed, Brenda. That is just crushing to hear.
Sherry,
because I work with kids.
Oh, sorry, Irene.
Yeah,
sorry.
Well, please jump away.
No, I was gonna. Sherry taught me something when we spoke a while ago, and it made me think. In this, also make something. Irene, you're talking about your art, and you're talking about volunteering, giving to others. That's making some. Sherry, you told me once you've literally brought the light on one of your darkest days by decorating your bicycle or something like that with lights. Right, make something, because if you can just tweak that energy for yourself and somebody else, I think it changes.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Rachel.
What I love about what both of you two said is you both talked about energy, because it's why I started writing my daily blog of daily aligning with love, abundance, and peace, because my other choice was aligning with fear, lack, and separation. Those were my choices. And I know I am only responsible and accountable for the energy I put out. I cannot be in control of what anybody else put out, but if I know whatever I put out expands and grows. And so I love that you guys both focused on energy, because it's so true. It's like, if we can shift our energy and like Irene, you saying, like, we focus on what we're best at, where our energy is best serves, that's when it expands the brightest.
Yeah.
If we try to put our energy in somewhere we don't serve well, it's dimmer, and someone else's is brighter at it. So let them do that, because they shine at that and shine where we need to shine. And I think it is what changes the world. I mean, when we, and Brenda, yours and people, and seeing them that way, because you bring light into the world by the people you choose, by the books you choose, by the communities you bring together. I mean, look at what you and Sherry created with this. That's your shine. That's your shine, and it's about keeping your energy where we know we shine the brightest, because that's how we expand it out.
Oh, I love that, Rachel.
Sorry.
And it's so great, because while you were talking, I was thinking the other thing that both Polly and Irene said, besides focusing on energy, they both used next right action when you were talking. And it immediately all like clicked into place for me, that had I not taken responsibility this morning when I woke up feeling ill, and just let myself stay in that, all of my next actions would not be next right actions. Now, however, Brenda, following her own energy, brought up something today that suddenly I was like, oh, I'm going to donate some money after we hang up. Like, that's the next right action, because that feeds into what Rachel was saying. There are people who are dedicating their lives to helping these children and their families in their situations. And that may not be where I'm an expert but I know who's doing that. And so, because you guys have lit up my day in this way, right? All of you have brought this energy. I'm aligned with the next right action, which is like, wow, that touches my heart. I don't want to just hide under the covers. I want to empower someone else by donating money. That's one way we can do it. So I'm curious, Brenda, what's dropped in for you as you've been listening to everyone?
Yes. Well, first off, when I think I read that on Monday night, and I made and my thought, my first response was like, I have to talk to people about this. Like, I wonder if people know. And I didn't know I was going to bring it to Wednesday Wisdom, but then it felt right. I felt called to share it because of what Irene said. But when the whole kids in cages thing broke out, like, I do this, Shelby and Victoria know very well that I feel a little hate holler that's like acts of kindness and goodness. I just like sometimes it was a rant, but I blogged about that, and I gave like specific like actions you could take. Like, one was like $100 donation can help a migrant mother that doesn't speak English, like, get an attorney to help find her kid, et cetera, et cetera. And then I like shared it on my Facebook, et cetera, and showed that like I donated and asked people to donate. And I raised thousands of dollars that way. Oh. So I think I might need to do that again. Yeah. But like, I like very openly like shared how I felt about it. Like, this is wrong. This is not who we are. This is not like, this is not America. But I've had this feeling ever since then that I wanted to get books into the hands of those kids. And I just never had the like time to like figure out how to do it, but I know it must be doable. And then like Mango never had the right kind of book to send, but like now we are coming out with a bilingual drawing book. And like, I thought like, well, the kids aren't allowed outside except for like 20 minutes every 2 weeks, but maybe they can process their feelings, sort of like art therapy, in this bilingual drawing book. So I sort of feel called to get that book into any kid that needs it, but especially those kids that are not allowed that basic human need. They're not allowed to get it. Like, so I feel like we have to help them. Yeah.
You know, I oftentimes during these heart wisdom panels, and you started this, Brenda, which I love, which was, you know, we put out intentions. And I just feel called right now, like you brought this all up, you brought this here. I would just like to offer an intention that when we share this replay, that, you know, that people hear this who can help, you know, whether it's, you know, getting those books out or following what you did, which I hope you'll do again and tag all of us, right?
Yeah.
So that we can all like, not just, and I think this is the thing about vitality, right? Like back to our topic, which is that even when it's hard, like this is a hard topic, but we can all bring our vitality, our life force, our energy to it, right? Even if it's a hard topic, rather than it feels awful to think about a situation like that and then just to hide, right?
It will recharge doing that, and also sharing this with all of you. It will recharge me and also make me glad to be human.
Did you guys want to look at the book?
I was just going to say, what makes us turn away is when we feel we really can't do anything, or we have to do something that is not within what we automatically or intuitively feel. But when I read about what you're doing, I'm thinking, I might know somebody I could connect you with that, you know, so we might be able to bring this. Yeah. And that, I think, is where the energy for change happens, is when people are leading right out of what their intuition is telling them to do. So, you know, let me see what I can do.
I love that. Me too. There's a lot of research around inspiration, and it's one of those few qualities that can't be contrived. It can't be created. Like, we can build optimism, we can become more optimistic. Inspiration, we can't do it. But what they know, the psychologists have studied this, know that we can create the conditions for inspiration to happen. And this is one of the conditions. Coming together with people who have energy and caring about whatever, people that are robust and bringing their own vitality, even if it's just right now. I mean, you don't have to be on all the time, but when we put our energy out in the world, it cycles back to us. So it's sustainable, right? And this is what creates inspiration. This is when change happens. And when we start to move on this, when Brenda sees her idea, she's going to be more empowered and excited. And Irene's got an idea already. We're in the right action, right? Already.
I love that. And I feel it. I don't know about anyone else, but right. Like, but I feel like I'm all tingly because there's something in the moment that is so alive, and it's filled with love and care and right action, that expression that keeps coming up. Yeah, I love that. Victoria, you had a beautiful comment in the chat. Did you? I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you wanted to join in.
Oh, no, that's okay. So my dad got remarried. So he has a wife and her 2 kids. They come from Mexico. So even before COVID, it was very like, oh my gosh, they're starting to crack down on immigration more, and they're going to deport people. And so it was always like, how do I ensure her that I care for her, and how do I make sure that she knows that there's hope and that we're not going to give up, or, you know, like, let them take her, I guess you could say, without like fighting, you know what I mean? And I think that just having that comfort of knowing that there's someone that actually cares for you, because a lot of the times there's such a negative connotation in general with immigration, and, you know, like, you're just another person to people. So I think that hope and just knowing that there are people in your corner helps a lot, especially with that. And I don't know, I can't imagine these families being put in cages. I can't. And I can only tell you from that point of view that it's really hard to hear someone who, especially who, my dad was married 2 times, and he had a wicked wife for the first half, and he had a really sweet and genuine and kind person for this new wife that he has. And it's like, never had it been so much. And that's the other thing too, people don't realize stuff until it becomes part of them in a way. And so it's like hearing someone who I care deeply for and who cares deeply for me, and not wanting to see her kids go. It's and they're in the process too of getting immigration papers now, but hearing that back then was just, it's so sad because they couldn't go out of their homes, and even now they're even more cabin fever because of COVID. But yeah, it's just hard all around to hear those stories. And I think, like I said, it's nice to kind of have someone in your corner and say, it's okay, I care about you, you know, like, we're going to get through this. And there are ways, even if it's really hard, you know, in those situations, because even now it's hard to get papers at the moment. With my my stepmom, she's in the process, but they want so many things from her. Like, just when she's right there, they're like, okay, we need an interview. And then, you know, we need a physical, you know, all this stuff that like just keeps prolonging it. But it's like, for her to have people in her corner and her know that, you know, like, we're rooting for you, like, you're gonna get the papers. And she's even talking about, like, when I get my papers, I'm gonna go work. And she's like, I'm not gonna have to worry about getting money from your dad anymore, like, all that stuff. It's just so nice to see that she has aspirations and goals, you know, and this sweet person like deserves to be here, in my opinion. So I'm just like, just hope in general is probably another thing that would be really nice for that coloring book.
Oh, I love that. And I love everything that you just said. And it reminded me, for those of you who were here last week when we were talking about aging well, and how the huge importance of social connections and love and community. And so, Victoria, you're also bringing that aspect in, you know, that when we are loving, like Brenda bringing in this whole topic in her heart, you know, I can tell, like, right, your heart is just so with everyone, that is also a part of longevity and vitality, which is that love and social connection, which, by the way, you all also provide every Wednesday by showing up here. So, oh, that's so sweet, Brenda. I love that.
Just let me know the address, and like, we'll throw in some copy of Say It Now, Glad to Be Human, and you recharged.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Totally be embarrassed that I talked about her, but she would totally love that. And I think that's such a sweet gesture. So thank you so much.
Oh, that is so sweet.
And we'll go ahead and add Letters from a Better Me too.
Keep them coming. I'm good. I love
Yeah.
She loves books. I'm just,
I guess Random Acts of Kindness.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just love everything that kind of, I always say this week and every week, that we don't know where this is going to go. And that what Polly said is so true too, about showing up, right? And creating a space, and then people speaking from what's true, speaking from their intuition, speaking from what is there. We can't underestimate how important that is, you know? And I hope, I guess, you know, again, back to, I know we're at the top of the hour, but, you know, I hope Brenda will follow through and tag us all and invite us all to donate to the places that she's donating. And I hope that Irene and Polly will follow up with Brenda, and that we'll send the books to Victoria's stepmom, and that we'll all take those next right actions and keep the energy alive. Did anybody want to say anything before we go? Because this was really a heartfelt conversation.
One little thing that like this popped into my mind a few years ago. I mean, obviously, you know, Mango and Canary like are renowned for the Random Acts of Kindness book series, but I wanted to do a book, not me to write it, but I've wanted us to have a book, publish a book that's like sort of kick-ass kindness, like sort of in your face kindness, like but like kick-ass kindness, like just the, like, where, you know, it's not, you know, just plugging a quarter into the parking meter so somebody doesn't get a ticket, but like more like right action, really, I guess. big acts of
Cool.
big, bold acts of kindness.
Ooh.
Great.
So
great.
I intend that comes through.
Love
Okay.
Now look at us. We're all thinking right now. We're all like, okay.
I know, we're all maybe it's a big collaborative effort from
That'd be fun.
many
That'd
of
be
the
fun.
writers. Oh goodness, I knew this was going to be amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
Holly and Irene, thank you both. You both
Thank
just
you.
like showed up with so much energy and joy. And thank you, Victoria, for everything that you do for us. And Brenda, thanks for bringing in
Thank you.
your ideas. And Rachel, Ms. Marie, and Shelby, thank you guys. It's so wonderful to have you all here. And it really matters. It matters, the showing up. Thank you. Next week, I will be away and Ms. Rachel Wolf will be hosting the Heart Wisdom panel. So I hope you'll come back. And Rachel, do you want to just say a word about what it's going to be so people know? Oh, you're muted though.
Mhm.
Next week will be with Susan Reeve and Bridget Jackson Buckley, and we are going to be talking about connecting to self.
Maybe a good one.
Yes, so I'm super excited. I'm reading both their books right now, and oh yeah, the ideas are just flowing, and I've talked to both of them, and yeah, it's gonna be really good.
Awesome. Well, I will miss you all next week, but I'll catch the replay. Thank you. Thank you. Mwah. Amazing people.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.